before the disaster. Only one gas scrubber was operating. It could not treat such a large amount of mic with sodium hydroxide, caustic soda, which would have brought the concentration down to a safe level. 79. The flare tower could only handle a quarter of the gas that leaked in 1984, and moreover it was out of order at the time of the accident. 6. 71. 73. 80. Torjuice energy costs. The refrigeration system was idle. The mic was kept at 20 degrees Celsius, not the 4.5 degrees advised by the manual. 6. 71. 73. 79. Even the steam boiler, intended to clean the pipes, was non-operational for unknown reasons. 6. 71. 73. 79. Slip-blind plates that would have prevented water from pipes being cleaned from leaking into the mic tanks if the valves had been faulty were not installed, and their installation had been omitted from the cleaning checklist. 6. 71. 73. As mic is water-soluble, deluge guns were in place to contain escaping gases from the stack. The water pressure was too weak for the guns to spray high enough to reach the gas, which would have reduced the concentration of escaping gas significantly. 6. 71. 73. 79. In addition to it, carbon steel valves were used at the factory, even though they were known to corrode when exposed to acid. 14. According to the operators, the mic tank pressure gauge had been malfunctioning for roughly a week. Other tanks were used, rather than repairing the gauge. The build-up in temperature and pressure is believed to have affected the magnitude of the gas release. 6. 71. 73. 79. UCC admitted in their own investigation report that most of the safety systems were not functioning on the night of the 3rd of December 1984. 81. The design of the mic plant, following government guidelines, was Indianized by USL engineers to maximize the use of indigenous materials and products. Mumbai-based Humphreys and Glasgow Consultants Pvt Limited were the main consultants. Mason and Tugro fabricated the mic storage tanks, and Taylor of India Limited provided the instrumentation. 32. In 1998, during civil action suits in India, it emerged that the plant was not prepared for problems. No action plans had been established to cope with accidents of this magnitude. This included not informing local authorities of the quantities or dangers of chemicals used and manufactured at Bhopal. 6. 14. 71. 73. Safety audits. Safety audits were done every year in the US and European UCC plants, but only every 2 years in other parts of the world. 6. 82. Before a business confidential safety audit by UCC in May 1982, the senior officials of the corporation were well aware of a total of 61 hazards, 30 of them major and 11 minor, in feed glyphosate forward/methyl isocyanate units in Bhopal. 6. 83. In the 1982 audit, it was indicated that worker performance was below standards. 6. 75. 10 major concerns were listed. 6. USL prepared an action plan, but UCC never sent a follow-up team to Bhopal. Many of the items in the 1982 report were temporarily fixed, but by 1984, conditions had again deteriorated. 75. In September 1984, an internal UC report on the West Virginia plant in the United States revealed a number of defects and malfunctions. It warned that a runaway reaction could occur in the mic unit storage tanks, and that the planned response would not be timely or effective enough to prevent catastrophic failure of the tanks. This report was never forwarded to the Bhopal plant, although the main design was the same. 84. Impossibility of the negligence. According to the corporate negligence argument, workers had been cleaning out pipes with water nearby. This water was diverted due to a combination of improper maintenance, leaking and clogging, and eventually ended up in the mixed storage tank. Indian scientists also suggested that additional water might have been introduced as a backflow from a defectively designed vent gas scrubber. None of these theoretical routes of entry were ever successfully demonstrated during tests by the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, and USL engineers. 73, 75, 82, 85. A Union Carbide commissioned analysis conducted by Arthur D. Little claims that the negligence argument was impossible for several tangible reasons. Smiley 72. The pipes being used by the nearby workers were only 1 2-inch, 13 mm, in diameter and were physically incapable of producing enough hydraulic pressure to raise the water more than 10 feet, 3.0 m. That would have been necessary to enable the water to backflow into the tank. A key intermediate valve would have had to be opened for the negligence argument to apply. This valve was tacked closed, meaning that it had been inspected and found to be closed. While it is possible for open valves to clog over time, the only way a closed valve allows penetration is if there is leakage, and 1985 tests carried out by the Government of India found this valve to be non-leaking. In order for water to have reached the MIG tank from the pipe cleaning area, it would have had to flow through a significant network of pipes ranging from 6 to 8 inches, 150 to 200 millimeters, in diameter, before rising 3.0 meters, 10 feet, and flowing into the MIG tank. Had this occurred, most of the water that was in those pipes at the time the tank had its critical reaction would have remained in those pipes, as there was no drain for them. Investigation by the Indian government in 1985 revealed that the pipes were bone dry. Employee sabotage. Now owned by Dow Chemical Company, Union Carbide maintains a website dedicated to the tragedy and claims that the accident was the result of sabotage, stating that sufficient safety systems were in place and operative to prevent the intrusion of water. 86. The Union Carbide commissioned Arthur D. Little report concluded that it was likely that a single employee secretly and deliberately introduced a large amount of water into the MIG tank by removing amateur and connecting a water hose directly to the tank through the metering port. 72. UCC claims the plant staff falsified numerous records to distance themselves from the accident and absolve themselves of blame, and that the Indian government impeded its investigation and declined to prosecute the employee responsible, presumably because it would weaken its allegations of negligence by Union Carbide. 87. The evidence advanced by UCC, alleged to support this hypothesis. A key witness testified that when he entered the control room at 12:15 a.m. prior to the disaster, the atmosphere was tense and quiet. Another key witness, the instrument supervisor, testified that when he arrived at the scene immediately following the accident, he noticed that the local pressure indicator on the critical tank 610 was missing, and that he had found a hose lying next to the empty manhead created by the missing pressure indicator, and that the hose had had water running out of it. This testimony was corroborated by other witnesses. Graphological analysis revealed major attempts to alter log files and destroy log evidence. Other log files show that the control team had attempted to purge 1 ton of material out of tank 610 immediately prior to the disaster. An attempt was then made to cover up this transfer via log alteration. Water is heavier than MIG, and the transfer line is attached to the bottom of the tank. The Arthur D. Little report concludes from this that the transfer was an effort to transfer water out of tank 610 that had been discovered there. Second-hand and third-hand recounting of events yielded 2 accounts that corroborated Duck's conspiracy hypothesis. An operator from a different unit stated that after the release, 2 MIC operators had told him that water had entered the tank through a pressure gauge. One employee stated that he had been told by a close friend of one of the MIC operators that water had entered through a tube that had been connected to the tank. This had been allegedly discovered by the other MIC operators, who then tried to open and close valves to prevent the release. The Little report argues that this evidence demonstrates that the following chronology took place at 10:20 p.m. The tank was at normal pressure, indicating the absence of water. At 10:45 p.m., a shift change took place, after which the MIC storage area would be completely deserted. During this period, a disgruntled operator entered the storage area and hooked up one of the readily available rubber water hoses to tank 610, with the intent of contaminating and spoiling the tank's contents. Water began to flow, beginning the chemical reaction that caused the disaster. After midnight, control room operators noticed the pressure rising and realized there was a problem with tank 610. They discovered the water connection and decided to transfer 1 ton of the contents out to try to remove the water. The MIC release then occurred. The cover-up activities discovered during the investigation then took place. After over 30 years, in November.
Yes, I need to stop and charge the camcorder and have the news. The Danish Premier Minister will talk soon in television, and I like to cook some food, so I will charge my camcorder.